It's a small difference. Just do whatever comes naturally to you. That's fine.
Okay.
I think we're at that point where everybody forgives so many of those things when they didn't necessarily a year ago. So, if it pops into your head, don't freak out about it.
That's cool. Okay, all good.
And actually, that's good timing because the music's just playing in.
Yeah, no, got everything set up right
on
before.
time.
We have no control over the intro music. It's something we should fix one of these days. But with that, I would like to welcome you to the Video Reformation Podcast. I'm Ben Oliver.
I'm Justin Plant.
We're the co-founders of Storyboard Media and your guides to practicing effective video for business. We're like the Gordon Bombay to your Mighty Ducks. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good one, man.
I'm going to be Goldberg.
Oh, nice. You're our goalie.
The goalie,
okay.
Yeah.
Our topic today is going to be the shift from promo content to truly educational content. I think by the time the episode launches, we'll come up with a more SE optimized title. But that's the topic that we're discussing. And we are truly honored to have our guest with us today, Tyler Lessard from Vidyard, VP of Marketing for Vidyard. Welcome, Tyler.
Well, thank you very much. Glad to be here. And in the spirit of the hockey analogies, I am Canadian here. And if you want to refer to me as the Wayne Gretzky of video and business, I would be more than happy to have that title. So
I'll write that down. Yep.
You know, that's a bold claim, but I have no data to refute it. So let's go with it. We are honored to be joined by the Wayne Gretzky of video marketing today. Now, Tyler, I imagine much of our audience, as we imagine our audience anyway, is familiar with Vidyard. They're probably even familiar with you because you are everywhere. But for those who maybe have seen your face or have seen the Vidyard logo, but don't really know who you or Vidyard is, can you give us a quick intro for those listeners?
Yeah, I would love to. And most people don't really know the breadth and the nuances of the different things that we do. So happy to share that. We, as an organization, were actually founded about 11 years ago as a video hosting and management platform, really geared towards B2B businesses that were publishing more and more videos on their websites, on their digital channels, on their landing pages, and starting to use it as a core part of their marketing programs. So we weren't all about, pushing your content to YouTube or video advertising. It was all about a video hosting platform for those using video as a core part of their content programs. And, a big part of our rise to success was building out the tools that most common business marketers are looking for when it comes to video. Not only great content management, but also the ability to track and know who's engaging with my videos, how long are they staying tuned to this content, how well is it resonating, but also giving them the analytics they can use to qualify and understand their most engaged leads. So that's a big focus of how we started. Over the last couple of years, we've seen this rise of more and more do-it-yourself video content. And many people will also know us for our tools that make it easy for anyone, a marketer, a sales rep, a business leader, to record and send custom videos directly from our tool and be able to track and know who's watching those kind of one-to-one style videos.
Many of those have popped up in the past couple of years, but nothing's been as sticky for me as like the first time I used Go Video. It was just like, it was obvious that's what I'm going to be using for a long time. And I've tried the other tools and some are great, but man, the stickiness of that one is fantastic.
Yeah, part of the stickiness, and I think this is something that we'll talk about more broadly about video content these days, was making it easy, making it simple, making it just a part of your typical workflow. And that's really when we cracked the code on it, to be honest, because anybody can find tools to record a video, to edit it, to upload it, and to share it. But we really focused in on, we actually built it for our own sales team first. And we wanted to make it easy for them to record a custom video as part of their sales prospecting and send it out via email. And so we obsessed over making it easy, making it efficient, making sure that they didn't have to go through any unnatural actions to do this. And that's really been a lot of our success around that tool today. And I think generally in video, there's that common thread of we got to make it easier for people to create, to share, to track, to engage in this, to make sure it's not a second-class citizen, but it's just a part of the way we communicate in business.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about you? How did you end up at Vidyard? How have you kind of ended up being the Wayne Gretzky that you are?
That one I'm still not sure of. I think that happened by accident. But I've been here at Vidyard for about 7 years now. And I actually started my career as an engineer. I'm a systems design engineering graduate from University of Waterloo. I started my career at BlackBerry. Some of you may be old enough to remember the true inventors of the smartphone.
Research in motion.
Then.
Yep.
So back when it was still research in motion, I spent 10 years at RIM out of school. And I started as a software developer, but I quickly realized that I was both a better communicator and a better hockey player than I was a software developer. And I moved from a role of writing code to supporting and working with third-party developers who were actually building the very first wave of mobile apps, right? I was working with the guys who were making the very first mobile web browsers and mobile Salesforce automation apps, and it was amazing. And what I learned during that time was I was, again, much more inclined to work externally with partners, with customers, build communities. And I launched really our first developer program, our developer conferences, and ultimately built on a developer community there, which was my foray into the world of marketing. So really interesting start to my career there, and I slowly kept moving further and further into business development, into product marketing, and ultimately into a marketing leadership role. And eventually found my way here at Vidyard, thanks to knowing two of the co-founders through some connected colleagues. And it's been a really incredible 7 years since I got here.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, we have always been big fans of you and of Vidyard. I think we kind of you kind of ended up on our radar about, I want to say 5 years ago now, as we were kind of switching from just a production company to realizing that there needed to be so much more of a strategic focus for why our clients wanted us to make the videos they were asking us to make. And so as we started to really dig into video strategy and but also the back end, the analytics and what you can learn about customer behaviors and things like that, I mean, you guys were that resource that we just kept coming to over and over and over again. And to be perfectly honest, some of our strongest messaging, I honestly don't know whether it came from our heads or from you guys' heads. It's just, our standard talk tracks are probably, 30% us and 70% you guys, I think, if you go back to the source. In fact, we're an agency partner. I think we were... Yeah. I did a little bit of research in putting the outline together. And from what I could find, I think we were like an agency I think we were like the 12th agency partner.
That's what
when it wasn't really like an organized program. And then because there were some emails in like 2016 that I found with Rob where we were talking about the program. And then it was weird because today is January 5th. And I think it was January 4th, 2018, that we became an official, as the agency partner program is now, agency partner. Yeah. 3 years ago yesterday, we became official. And we love the partnership. We love everything about it. We're customers ourselves. But as I understand it, we are now... not as of the recording of this podcast, but as of the release of this podcast on February 1st, we are certified by Vidyard in both video selling and in implementation.
Yeah, it's been
amazing, guys. Pat yourselves on the backs.
Yeah,
it's there you go. Look at that, bringing people together.
Yep.
It's great, man. Congratulations. It has been an interesting ride over the last number of years, and on our side, it's been so rewarding to actually see the partner programs come into their form and to really be a meaningful part of our business. I hired Rob back, must have been 5 years ago now that Rob joined as our first alliances manager. And, at that time, it was, very ad hoc. It was finding partners that, that we aligned with well. It was a small number. It was mostly technology partners at the time. But now the biggest part of our community are folks like yourselves who are out there working with clients every day on their content strategy, which I think is the most important piece of all of this, because without great video, it doesn't matter what tech you're using. Yep. So those who are working with them on their content strategy and helping them understand the technology behind the scenes, and vice versa, us being able to bring in partners like yourselves to help businesses who are investing in the technology figure out how to level up their content strategy, because again, one without the other doesn't really help. So it's been a really exciting few years, and this is becoming a really big part of our business now. It's great.
Yeah, and just in my first couple conversations with Tom, now before the holiday break, 15 minutes into our first call, we realized that he and I could have a call every day and talk for 2 hours about this stuff. So that was a good ad, and I know Justin's got a call with him tomorrow, along with Christiana. So
great team.
Yeah, we're thrilled about the partnership. We're happy to be officially certified now in video selling and implementation. All right, well, enough about all of us. I think we should probably jump into the topic today. And Tyler, when you suggested it, I think your exact wording was the shift from promo content to truly educational content. And I know that our listeners understand the difference between promo content and educational content.
Yeah.
I was really drawn by your adverb selection of truly. And so if you could talk for a minute about maybe what marketing educational content is, and then what truly educational content is. I know there's a gray line, but I'm intrigued by the word truly that you put in there. So I want you to talk about that a little bit.
There is no gray line to me. There's a very clear line, and it starts like from a mentality and even a culture of how your marketing organization thinks and works and operates and what they're trying to accomplish. And I think whether it's video or anything else, marketing content is built with the mindset of generating leads, and that is the primary mindset of creating marketing content. The mindset of creating truly helpful content is very much that. You start from a place where you are genuinely invested in helping your audience, your community, your customers be more successful. And it is a nuanced thing. And a lot of us, we say, oh, well, yeah, we do marketing content, but we're trying to help. That's what we're trying to do. And then you look at how they promote it, you look at how they position it, and that's not really the case, right? It always comes back to, you talked about SEO earlier, right? It always comes back to it's keyword stuffing, it's this, that. And those things are important to help people find the right content. But it has to come from a true place of genuinely wanting to help your base and audience succeed and investing in that and saying, something we've always done from day one when I was brought on board. We were 30 people and we already had a dedicated content marketer, a dedicated product marketer, and a dedicated demand manager who was running the programs. But one of our earliest employees was a content marketer who was focused on writing pieces to help our audience. We also had a video producer who was creating content for our community. And so I think that's where it starts from. And many of us get that, and we've been focused on trying to create helpful educational content through written form for many years. But I'd say right now, in 2019, 2020, 2021 now, is this massive growth in the use of video as that medium to educate audiences and to create that content from that place of, I genuinely want to help people succeed. And if I do that, that rising tide will float all boats, and we as a business will be successful, and our community will become our advocates. And that's really what it comes down to me.
That reminds me of a quote. I can't remember who said it, but I'll attribute it to
yourself.
Thomas Jefferson.
Just give it to yourself.
Chris Christopherson. Nobody likes to be sold, but they love to buy. And you don't want to be like tricked into buy, like kind of like you generated a lead, I guess, like I'll buy whatever you have. People want to be a part of something. Like if they're gaining value from you, they want to lean into that as much as they can. And so I think that educational content is right there for them to help experience, get like a little taste test of what you have to offer. Yeah.
I mean, and it's very different in different markets, right? Like if you're a B2C company, selling shoes, if you're in what would be considered kind of a commodity market, it may not be an area where you need to focus a lot on education. But there's things you can do for sure. But in worlds like ours, like again, myself as a marketing leader here at Vidyard, we're a B2B company that, are trying to help marketers and salespeople accomplish certain tasks. But there's a lot of things that we know that they don't. And many of us, particularly in B2B businesses, I think we underestimate how little our audience actually knows, or maybe we overestimate how much they do know. And we make a lot of assumptions that, hey, well, we know all this stuff. It's second nature to us. They should as well. And why wouldn't they buy our product, right? Like, they'd be silly not to. But the reality is they don't, right? They don't know anything about how you really compare to others. They don't know anything about why it is they might want to use a solution like yours in many cases, right? So often, and that's where, again, a lot of our own strategy and a lot of our customers that we work with are in that mindset of, okay, how do we not only create content and video specifically at what we call the top of the funnel to help people sort of learn about very high level topics that are market centric, they're not us centric, but right through into like, even when they're in a sales cycle, right? Like our marketing team, we're a full funnel marketing team. And we're always thinking about, like, at this point in a buying journey, we talk to our sales reps, like, what questions do they have? What do they still not seem to understand? And can we create really simple, authentic content that helps them understand that clearly makes it very clear and undeniable how we solve this problem, or how this works, or how this compares, or how the pricing works, right? All those kinds of things are stuff that we all need to be thinking about today. And that's that, again, that mindset of truly trying to help people through that entire journey through thoughtful content.
As a video-centric company, how do you decide when to implement video as a marketing, like tactically speaking, when to use video?
Yeah, well, I do want to be clear up front that we do way more content than just video. Some people will say, oh, you guys, that's all you're going to do is video. And it's actually, we do a lot more written content than we do video. That said, we do a lot of video. We do a lot of both for lots of different reasons, because there are lots of different audiences we're serving, lots of different questions we're still answering, and so on. But I think for us, we always take like any good marketing team, I like to think you start with the problem, the topic, the question, the pain point, whatever it happens to be that you're trying to educate people on or teach them about. And you build, you start with the narrative for, okay, what is the narrative around this problem or this question, right? Like, what are they asking? What's the lead into it? What's the answer? What's the proof point? There's all these things that go into it. And then, of course, you think about, now, how does this best manifest itself through content? And it might be through written form. It might be with supportive video content to help show certain things that may need visual explanation. Or it may warrant to be done in video format primarily, because it's something that requires visuals to be seen, or it helps to have somebody clearly explain it in a human voice, and all those little things that can go into it. So that's a starting point for me, is, start with the messaging, start with the idea, and then think about how it manifests itself. It's not always as scientific as that, right? Like, there are cases where we're saying, yeah, you know what? We, just like you guys are doing here, right? Like, we really believe our audience will get value out of a video series that tackles these kinds of topics and so on. And we think the video format is really going to shine because it gives an opportunity for it to be conversational, for it to be human, to meet the people that are explaining it. And we'll invest in a video series because, again, we believe video is the right format. And then how do you make something really shine in video? So it can go both ways, starting with the format or starting with the content, if you will. But I think what's really important, and this is what I say to our customers all the time, is if video isn't a part of the common content culture you have, right? Like, if you think about it, most businesses, most marketing teams, most content teams, they don't think about video explicitly as a way to deliver a message, right? They come from a background of, well, we do written blogs and we do infographics. And, that's just not what, we don't have an in-house producer, this and that. That's not a way we do things. And when we do a video, it's a big thing, right? It's like once a quarter, we'll do a video to support a big campaign. And that's when you run into real problems. When you're not consistently thinking about, okay, we're going to deliver this message, we're going to run this program. Do you have that checkbox to say, should we create a video as a hero or supporting asset for this, right? And that's probably what I come back to, is we're very disciplined about that, right? We'll always have that checkbox to say, make sure we at least think about it. Should video be a part of this? And often we'll say no, right? It'll be like, no, you know what? This topic, just great as a blog post and rock and roll. It's fine. But being disciplined and explicit about that, and explicitly deciding that no, video does not need to be a part of this is important. And I think that's what a lot of people still miss today. And it's just not a part of that culture of their content.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Ever since we've written our manifesto, we've felt really strongly video is a practice, it's not a deliverable. And it's so like just to have that checkbox there at all times, and it's you can decide, is this the right way to go? But then if it is a practice, you're probably learning stuff as you go along and improving that practice every time you do it. So having that resource internally is really important, or I guess externally. But either way, having the resource.
It's just like, we saw it happen with social media. We saw it happen with content marketing, right? Where everybody started with, okay, I'll entirely outsource it. And it's something that we do a little bit here and there, but it's expensive. And it's an agency that's on retainer. And so, but we start there because it's not yet a core part of our practice. And then, social media, right? Most companies have somebody who manages social media internally now because it's just a part of how you market. It's a part of how you communicate. It's a part of how you engage your audience. Content marketing went through the same cycle, right? Most businesses had a external contract writer or a PR agency or somebody else that was writing content for them. And then at some point we realized, oh shit, this is a good idea. Like we should be doing this consistently as a way to engage our audience. And it came in-house. And or we kept that agency on retainer, but we made it something that was now a consistent part of how we do things and not like, hey, once every 2 weeks, can you give me something? And I think, honestly, video is becoming that same thing. And again, whether you have an in-house resource who can create this content rapidly as needed, and if somebody checks the box, you're not like, oh, crap, they checked that box to do video now. How are we going to do it? Right? Yeah. Like that's the problem you're trying to solve, because it was the same thing with social and content. It was like, oh, great, somebody wants a blog post. Oh crap, how do we get that done? And you're like, no, that's what that person does. That's their job and they're amazing at it. So I think just having that, and it could be in-house and it could be having an agency partner. And I think you want to have both. I think you need somebody internally who can champion your internal video efforts. They may or may not be a professional producer, right? It might be your social media lead. It might be your content person that has basic video chops to be able to do quick things when they need to, but also having a trusted partner that you can bring in, for bigger projects, more important projects, to scale your efforts, who have the equipment you might need, who can hire actors as needed, those sorts of things, I think is really, really important. And that's where I see most businesses leaning today, is having that mixed mode at the ready and saying, this is a core part of our team. And we know, based on the type of video we're going to want to do, how we're going to approach it and who's going to take lead.
You've been relatively silent over there. I'm just soaking it up.
I'm learning as much as I can. I was again in this past weekend over the New Year's weekend, thinking about kind of passively that we were going to have this conversation today. I also just kind of completely unrelated. I started Dan Pink's masterclass. He has a masterclass on selling and persuasion, and the first 3 minutes of the first module, he talks about why selling, and I think for this conversation, by extension, marketing, has completely changed. It's been one way for all of human civilization until about the last 10 or 15 years because of the internet. And he points out it's this information asymmetry, where it was always that the seller had more information about the product or service than the buyer did. Right. And so the seller was always at an advantage. I know exactly what the problems are with this car. And as the buyer, you don't. And so I can withhold that information and we don't have an even playing ground. Right. I mean, he goes back to like the first sale of like a goat. Right. But now with the information that is available to all of us in the last 10 or 15 years, whether it's coming from you, the seller, or someone else who's selling something very similar to what you have, somebody's sharing the information. We can find that information now. And that struck such a chord, again, in the context of this conversation, because we as marketers and sellers and content creators and video producers and everything, we have almost the obligation to be educating and going from information asymmetry to information parity. And the better I think we can explain, here's how to solve your pain point. Here's what our product does differently than those other products. Not necessarily better, but differently. And to attract the right kind of customers, I mean, that to me just, kind of a light bulb went off, going into this discussion of how much information is out there and how we really need to control how much we share. And the more transparent we can be, the more problems we can solve, the more we can educate and lift up. I think you said something a little bit earlier about kind of, bringing everybody up. And that's something that we've said as it pertains to video for years is like, whether you use us or someone else, if you're going to get into video, that's great because the rising tide lifts all ships. And it was just interesting. It's just this fundamental change that I don't think we had the technology even to start to share this information before about 10 years ago.
It's super interesting. And I'm going to do a little product placement here. So I just recently launched my first book called The Visual Sale.
Oh, he brought another sponsor.
And, look at that, eh?
2 for 1.
So we'll talk about that later. But the reason I wanted to mention it now is what you talked about. It's so near and dear to my heart because that really is the foundation of what drove us to sort of take the approach to the book that we did. And it's that you're not changing the way you market and sell and doing video because you want to sell or market differently, right? You're doing it in response to how things have changed in the world of your buyers, right? And there's a couple things that you talked about that have really big implications. So one is, I absolutely agree that in the last, 30, 20, 10, 5 years, there has been this, massive democratization of information. There's also been a shift in how people, millennials right through to, various age brackets of how they now prefer to research and buy because of access to that information, as well as access to social communities, all these other things. So there's much more of the word you said, asynchronous buying happening where I want to do this on my own time, right? Like I don't want to book a call with a sales rep or go into a showroom floor and talk to a person to have them sell me on something. I can learn 80%, 90% of what I need to learn on my own. And most people prefer that. Now, some do still say, no, you know what? I just want to talk to somebody and have them teach me, and that's fine. But the majority of people are going to opt to self-educate, and they have access to the information to be able to do that now. So that's interesting. And as marketers, we now have to say, okay, great. And that really drove a lot of the revolution in content marketing. But now you think about one of the impacts of that, and you go, well, if everybody is just now learning online by themselves and they're reading articles and whatnot, where's the humanity gone in business, right? Because people still want the transparency, the trust, the authenticity, the genuine, right? Like all these things that have always been a really important part of business. And that's where I think video becomes so important because you say, I can, video is one of those content formats that I can use to let people learn and educate online by themselves, self-service. But it is the one format of all that gives me the opportunity to establish a much more personal, emotional, human connection with that audience. I can put my real people out there to explain ideas and actually let them meet them before you've ever talked in a live context, right? I can, create content that makes people laugh, right? That inspires them, that's motivational, all these things that can pull out emotional responses. Things that, back when we were buying goats, that only happened in the in-person communication, right? But that was a really important moment when you saw the goat and you saw the person teaching you about the goat. You're like, I trust this person because they have a goat and they've been doing this for years and I can tell, right? Yep. But when you move to an asynchronous information online world, you go, geez, everybody here can teach me how to buy a goat or whatever I'm trying to do. But this person here, right? I got lots of stories in the book about even things for me where I'm like, the first time I had to jumpstart my car, right? I don't know if any of you can remember the first time, I live in Canada, gets super cold, and every once in a while, your car doesn't start because it's just gone too cold. And you got to jumpstart it. And it's the scariest thing to do the first time when you're a young person, it's your first car, you're like, I know something's going to blow up here. There's going to be fire. It's going to go wrong. And you just don't want to hook it. And you read an article and it says hook the plus to the red and you're like, I think I got it, but I don't know. And then you Google it and you watch a video on YouTube of somebody actually doing it and you're like, that's it, right? Yep. I can see that person do it. and I can see they did not blow up. All right, I'm in, right? And you can follow along, right? Like that's the simplest example. We all talking about the like replacing a toilet video, these things. But it's not just jump starting a car, replacing a toilet. It's like, all these things we do in business, we can visually show people, we can teach them, earn their trust. And that's why I think video becomes so important in that asynchronous information world that people just want to research on their own. Yeah,
I just sent a proposal on New Year's Eve, actually. And it was to someone I'd only spoken with on a video chat. But so I walked through the proposal, did a video for that, and sent her the proposal. And I said, let me know if you have any more questions. We weren't able to walk her through it. So this was a good situation. She's like, this is fantastic. Because she needs to bring that proposal with the other ones that she's considering to her team. And when they get to see me talking about things and my personality and everything, how much and she doesn't have to try and remember what this thing in the proposal means and this thing. There's just so much more trust being built in that, and nobody else. All that buying committee is looking at is a bunch of pieces of paper or a computer screen with words on it, and I'm the only one who's got a video out there, and they're trying to buy video. So who do you think they're going to buy from? I'm going to be
hopefully us.
Oh yeah.
You'll find out on next week's episode. Did they win the deal?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I absolutely love that. And you guys are Video and Business Award winners yourselves. So I'm just going to I'll plant that seed for now. I might have questions for you later on. But one of the other winners of this year's Video and Business Awards, a gentleman named Thomas Buchanan, who won the Visual Seller of the Year award. As an account executive, he uses video through his whole sales process, not to pitch, but to educate, right? Back to the theme of this talk is he creates simple, short videos throughout his entire sales process for each prospect he's working with to show them different areas of his product or service. He actually records quick videos telling success stories of other customers like them. Yes, he has off-the-shelf produced customer stories, but he actually takes the time to hit record and explain their story in that customer's terms and make a short video of that. And then one of the other things, and he does what you said as well, Justin, is that when he gets to deal time, he records a video walking through his proposal and asks his champion to share it with any of the other decision makers who may not have had a chance to be a part of the process yet. And he said something to me that really struck me. As I was talking to him about his success with this, he said, Tyler, I looked at my Vidyard analytics, and I know over this past year, I closed X number of deals, and I met probably a couple hundred people at those X number of accounts. Like, let's say it was 20 accounts, and I met probably 100 to 200 total people in those. But I looked at my Vidyard analytics, and I had over 1,000 unique views of my videos. So I met, say, 100 people, but 1,000 people at those companies met me. And they did that without having to, because they wouldn't have anyway, get on a live call and so on. And so it was a really interesting moment where I was like, damn, that's good, right? Like 1,000 people at these companies met you without ever having to get on a live call, which I thought was a super interesting way to think about it because it gets you out there and it helps you build those relationships, whether you can be there or not. And you just couldn't do that with a written email or a PDF document.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's time to take a sponsor break.
Yeah.
Now, this is usually the point in the episode where we are saddened by losing one of our fake sponsors and have to come up with another new comedic enterprise or exercise of presenting a new fake sponsor for the episode. But I understand that Tyler actually has a completely legitimate sponsor that he has brought to the episode. And so to our regular listeners, don't be thrown by this.
This is a real thing.
This is new for us. Real sponsor. Tyler, take it away.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is brought to you by The Visual Sale. How to explode sales, drive marketing, and grow your business in a virtual world. Now, The Visual Sale is the #1 book, perhaps the only book, to help you understand how to use video across your sales and marketing teams, and most importantly, how to create a culture of video so that you never get to the point in these years ahead where you say, oh crap, we got to make another video. So grab your copy of the visual sale today, available on Amazon and anywhere you buy books.
I hope you've got enough in print right now, because this is a very popular podcast. And you know, or at least let your publisher know in advance. This comes out in a month.
I did forget to say, given the timeliness of this episode, that what better way to say I love you this Valentine's Day than with the gift of the visual sale.
We'll put an affiliate link in the show notes.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
Perfect.
90% commission. So we agreed to.
Yeah.
No, Justin, I actually want to tee this up for you because, you know, Tyler, you said creating cultures of video. And I mean, that's been, I don't know if it is right now, but for like the last 2 years, your LinkedIn kind of headline has been creating video cultures in B2B companies.
I hate to, like, every time I open my mouth, I feel like I'm saying another platitude of some sort. Now it's every company is a media company, and you have to be, like, whether that's print or video or whatever it is, you have to be putting that out there. But it used to be helping B2B companies build a video culture. And it should be, just like you were saying, Tyler, it should be a box that you can check and you can decide when and what not to do it. There are times when I skip video altogether. But for our company, we are so inclined to make everything that's marketing about us a video, because we like to be seen as like a video playground when you go to our website. Yeah. But there are times when you don't need it. But you should have that option there, and you've got to be able to. You got to just start small. Just start something. You know, start with just downloading that Google extension, the Chrome extension, and practice it. Going through the selling certification course, part of that 90-day boot camp is creating 100 videos in your first week. I mean, you've got to crank those out and just practice it. And yeah, you're going to look stupid, but wouldn't you rather look stupid now than in 2 years when, you know, you have a kid and like more responsibility and you have a promotion and, you know, just get over that hump. I know it's like a little bit scary, but you've got to do it.
The first video you make will always be your worst, and the last video you make will always be your best, right? Like it's the way it is, and we get better with everything. I work with a lot of sales teams on that very concept where they're like, I got all these sales reps and like none of them know how to do this thing video. And first of all, you're like, well, what's really interesting that's happened over the last year is with the move to remote work is we pretty much all now have cameras, and we're all now getting used to looking into the camera and speaking to people digitally, which even a few years ago wasn't as common as those of us in this ecosystem, would like to think, right? So we're getting over that hurdle of like the idea of digital video. And so I think now is actually really, it is the perfect time to say like, okay, great. Like, how do we make the most of this? How do we go all in on this now that we're starting to get people who understand it, who want to be a part of it? And it's the interesting thing now with using video from a marketing and a sales perspective is it gives us an opportunity to have people across our business participate in it. Like written content wasn't quite the same, right? Like you'd never go to one of your sales reps and say, hey, could you write me an article about this topic, right? I mean, you could, but it'd probably be the worst idea you'd had that week. Unless you have really amazing salespeople, no offense. But that's not their thing. But going to somebody on your sales team and saying, hey, I'd love to do a quick video of you answering these 2 or 3 questions that customers most typically ask you. I just want to hear how you would answer it. And we'll do a couple of takes on it. And, maybe we'll include you in this next great video where we're doing just that. We're answering some of the main questions. And some sales reps will be like, no, that's not for me. And others will be like, rock and roll, let's do this. Let's give it a shot. And like little things like that, where now you can start to get people in your company involved in it. You get executives, much like you guys are doing. You have people that become external evangelists who are doing shows. They're doing social content. It can really actually be a unifying thing for a lot of people in their business. They don't necessarily think about it that way. But when you, again, start to involve people across the company in this idea, big things can happen. And it could even be for internal video communications, right? Like if you're a bigger company and you've got executives giving updates to or even team leads who are trying to update their groups. are you still just sending out big, long emails or PowerPoints or getting everybody on a live call, even though they don't want to be? Or are you creating a video? Maybe you're just recording it with a Chrome extension. Maybe you're setting up shop and you're doing a really nice production, right? But those sorts of things, I think, are just now becoming more and more a part of how we need to do business. And that, to me, is when it starts to feel like it's part of the culture, right? It's not just a marketing and PR thing. It's really a part of the way we communicate as a business, both internally and externally.
Yeah, I love what you said about, going to a salesperson and saying, hey, can I get a quick video from you about, the top 2 or 3 questions? I completely validate that, because in some of the springboards, which is our strategic product, some of the springboards we've done, we've either surveyed or talked to salespeople. And that's the question that is top of the list for us in those conversations is either, what do you wish your prospects knew before you talk to them? Or what questions are you getting the most? And the answers to those 2 questions are so enlightening. And they're so often very different from what the marketing people have told us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. And so it's the people who actually have a qualified lead in front of them and they're trying to shepherd them to the close. Maybe we need to put a little bit more weight on what they're telling us that they need to provide for people. And the answers to those questions are just so surprising and enlightening every time we do it.
Almost every time we do that, we're like, damn it, I wish that was on video. Like we should have been filming this, because the way that that rolls off their tongue is so natural. And it's but then when you put a camera in front of somebody who's not used to it, they start to choke up a little bit. But
our sponsor, once again, folks, the Visual Sale, has we talk about that in the chapters on video and sales, and we call it the 80% video, which is creating videos that answer those same questions that come up from prospects on 80% of the first calls that they have with your reps. And it could be 2 or 3 questions, it could be 4 or 5 or 6. But I totally agree, and the advice we give as well is, don't just assume as a marketing team what those are, because you have a very distorted view of reality as marketers, and I can say that as a proud marketer. Talk to your sales team and ask them that just like the way you guys did. And then you can create short videos that clearly and hopefully visually answer those questions. And then you use it as part of what people would refer to as an assignment selling process, where you're assigning to your prospect homework during the sales cycle so that they can self-learn and come more prepared to the next meeting. So what a lot of successful sellers will do is they'll say, hey, I know we've got our first discovery call coming up. So make sure we use the most of that 30 or 60 minutes, because that time is precious. Please watch this video ahead of time where I or we collectively answer, the 5 questions that I most commonly get that you probably have right now. So watch this, and when you come to the meeting, then we don't have to spend 15 minutes on those questions. We can dive right into the things that we need to talk about. Yeah. And those kinds of assets get used like crazy by sales teams. They love it.
I feel like that is almost word for word what I was suggesting with the whole share your work thing yesterday. When we were talking about it. It's like, we've got limited time together, because, we, as a creative agency, you just hate to get on like that first big call and the first thing somebody says is, so can I see some of your work?
Right.
It's like
www.
Yeah. So, but to what you're saying about like being assumptive, like I think we've always been kind of assumptive that like if somebody's gotten to the point where they're willing to talk to us, they've done a little bit of research. And so we assume that because everybody asks, can I see your work? They've gone, and we are very transparent with our work. Our video library on our site is everything we've ever made that we are allowed to show. Right. And for the first several years, we did it as like just featured stuff. So it was the best of. But we just get so many questions about like, well, have you done something like this? Have you done something? That it's just all there. And so we were just talking about yesterday morning kind of, heading that off at the pass. And before one of those meetings, or when you get that first inbound contact, say, now, I want to focus our time on how I can best help you. I don't want to, spend that time going through and showing your work. So I recommend either before or after we talk, go ahead and check out this, and this, and then here's the whole library if there's something you want to say. And that was 25 hours ago we were having that exact conversation without having read the book.
There you go. But the rest of you still need to read the book because there's way more stuff than just that.
Absolutely.
But to your point, there's like you can just do that via an email, right? Like you can just send them an email saying, "Hey guys, here's some links to our work. Please go and watch, at least 3 of these videos before our call, so that we don't have to deal with that in the live session." But doing it as like you create that video, that one video that you can use every time. Again, part of that benefit becomes now that is something that they can share with other people. They see you on camera talking about it, and they've met you before that meeting even starts, right? Because a bunch of those people on the call will never have met you. And again, you're spending the first 5 minutes of the call doing intros, where if everybody's already watched that quick video, they've gotten some degree, they're like, oh, cool, that's Ben. I get it. Ben looks like a great guy. This seems like somebody I could work with, rock and roll, right? All those little touch points where it's like, is a little bit more work to make a video than just write it as an email? Maybe not, right? If it's something you're going to reuse over and over again, it might not actually be any more work. But even if it is, those little touch points where every one of those is a chance to put your face out there, to build rapport with your audience. I often think about that. I'm like, I'd rather them watch a quick video of me explaining this than reading it in text for those very benefits, right? Just that it's more FaceTime that they get with me. It builds my personal brand and credibility with them, right? That's why often on my own social profile for my own brand building, right? We all get this. Like if you're just posting text-based posts all the time, it doesn't people don't get to know you. Yeah. But if you're consistent in saying, here's what I would have written, but I want to do it in a quick video, right? Some people will be like, you're vain, you didn't need to say that video. But 90% of them are like, this is great. I actually kind of get to know you. I see your face. And it becomes that sort of continuous thing. And I think, again, as marketers and sellers, we underestimate all those times where a quick video could explain a message, could educate somebody, and have those added benefits of creating that connection, putting the faces out there, and making business feel real again.
Just like The Bachelor or Bachelorette, you got to get those one-on-one dates if you really want to get anywhere, right? You got to have that FaceTime. I mean, it's a lot like courting a lady friend or what have you. I mean, you're not going to get very far if you don't take them out on a date.
Yeah.
But even better with a recorded video is you can redo that first impression multiple times until you get it just right.
It's true.
Get all the sweat off and
Yeah. Don't make the first impression the live call, the live meeting, right? Make the first impression that one that you created, you're good with. I can send it over.
That's a great point.
My Insta version.
But but that's so true because the way that our sales process works is Justin's the one who's out there having like the qualifying conversations, the initial needs assessments, right? And then he brings me in to really start to talk about, okay, what are the problems you've got? What can we solve? Those kinds of things. And Justin started recently recording all of those initial conversations that he was having with prospects. And the ones that then turned into meetings that I was going to be on, I would then watch those videos. And I tell you, and I think part of this is because I'm a textbook introvert, but I feel so much less pressure and so much more opportunity going into that first live call with a prospect because I've already watched them interact with Justin. And I get to see them as a person as opposed to like this, suit who knows everything about everything and you're just trying to impress. When you see that we're all just people, right? It just takes so much of that and it becomes person-to-person conversation as opposed to, a pitch or a discovery call or whatever to this potentially big prospect. It works internally, it works externally, it works both ways. I mean, there's a whole 360-degree approach that I think this benefits.
Well, yeah, because the inverse of that is true, that your customers, when they see that video of you before they've ever met you explaining something, they're like, oh, cool, this is just like a regular guy. It doesn't seem like somebody who's trying to sell me. This is great, right? Yeah. And that's where that like authenticity in your content becomes so important. But I love it. It's such a great point.
I'd like to get back to goats for a little while.
Sure.
Me too.
We got, what? We'll send you. We have a great video that we did a couple years ago that has a live goat in it.
It pooped everywhere.
It did poop everywhere, but fortunately, goat poop is relatively dry poop, so it was more of a sweep up kind of thing than a mop up kind of thing.
That's actually one of the things on our internal checklist for when we insource versus outsource a video is the amount of poop expected. We will always outsource if there's a certain threshold.
Wise.
Yeah. Level 1 video marketing is there a checkbox of whether this could be a video or not? level 4 of video marketing is how much dung will this video produce?
Yeah. Yeah. So thank you guys, folks like yourselves who save us from having to do the dung work ourselves.
Yes.
Thank you.
I want to, in the 20 minutes or so that we have left, I do want to talk a little bit about, and I think we're all supposed to be using Flywheel now instead of Funnel, but what I don't like about the Flywheel is that it doesn't have a beginning, and I guess that that's part of the point, but like so much of this educational, all right, I'm not going to go into that.
There's an on-ramp. There's an on-ramp to the Flywheel. So
they don't show that.
I haven't seen that yet. If I could see that, I'd buy into the Flywheel.
It's probably
better.
in the visual sale.
Well, it's on page 75 of the visual sale. You'll have to buy it to see it yourself.
There we go. At Amazon and wherever books are sold. But if we talk about the Flywheel or the funnel, I'm wondering what your thoughts are on, at different stages to the purchase, do you treat educational content differently from a messaging standpoint, from a production value standpoint, from whatever variables there may be? Is the stuff that's right before the close very similar to the stuff that's before somebody even knows that they even have a problem or whatever? What do you think?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been thinking a lot about this because I used to be of the mindset that, the higher up in the funnel or the earlier on in the Flywheel, the more, I'd say, polished, produced, kind of promotional it tends to be. Whereas at the bottom of the funnel, as you move down, your content can end up being sort of longer and less produced, if you will. But I've come to terms with being wrong every now and again, and I think my approach to that has been wrong because I don't know that it's the stage of the funnel that matters so much anymore. It's it's more about the message, the expectation of the audience, what they're trying to get out of it, the channels that message is going to be going out on. There is certainly the stage of the buying journey, but what the stage is actually is really a proxy for the kinds of information that they're going to be looking for, right? So I feel like all throughout the Flywheel / funnel, there is an opportunity to use everything from ad hoc recorded videos done on my phone that are anywhere from 30 seconds to 8 minutes long to, right through to the bottom of the funnel, same thing. But it's the same thing for, beautifully produced emotional content that, is going to have broad reach or maybe, lower reach, but it has another need where you're telling an amazing customer story, right? And you're just like, I need to tap into that kind of that real story, that real emotion. I need to, the narrative is so important here that I'm going to put the effort in to make a great production out of this. And the results of that can be used all through the funnel as well. So it's a long way of saying, I don't know, Ben. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to it. The only thing I'm pretty passionate about is that true social media video content should be short, but
true.
Otherwise, I think we overthink the stage of the funnel, the length of the content and whatnot. I think we just always need to put ourselves in the shoes of our audience and go, what is going to have the biggest impact for them? And how can I make that happen through a piece of video content? And also, how can I respect their time? That's part of truly being empathetic to your audience. How can I respect their time the most and make sure I'm not asking them to watch a 30-minute customer story that they probably only needed 3 to 4 minutes of that to get the story they were looking for. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
So I come from the same place you're coming from. I have kind of always operated with the idea that the top of the funnel stuff is beautiful, well produced, bigger budget. And I think part of that too is because the thinking was that the higher up in the funnel you were, the more people you were talking to. So you were going to make, 1,000 first impressions instead of a one-on-one video of a demo of a little part of this piece of software or whatever. And I don't know that that's wrong. I just think the scrappier, more specific one-off stuff has kind of moved up further in the funnel. So I still think if I were gonna put together a roadmap for a client, I'd still kind of take that top-down approach from how wide the audience is and what the production value is. But yes, I think there is that kind of like bottom up of those more specific things. And even like you were talking about before, having a salesperson, put together a success story, from one of their other clients to share with one person. I mean, we do this with a lot of Justin's, or have done with some of our kind of pre-produced sales videos, like our team introductions that Justin sends when he's got to that point talking to a prospect. Each of our core members on the team kind of have this like introduction video. And we were doing these as one-offs, realizing we were kind of saying the same thing all the time. They were all Go Video produced, and we just put them in our folder, and Justin would put them in the playlist. But then it just immediately occurred to us that we're like, all right, well, let's spend 5 minutes thinking about what we're saying about ourselves, not put anyone else's name at the beginning. Hey, Tyler, I'm Ben. Great to meet you, whatever. And just, hey, I'm Ben. Looking forward to meeting you. Heard a lot of good things from Justin. And all of a sudden, that's something that we had to make once. It was still very scrappy, but it is something that you use over and over again. And I think that bottom up, but I do come from the same place, and I guess I'll have to figure out how to deal with being wrong also. I don't know how that's going to go.
Well, let's self-reflect here. Like, let's look in the mirror, guys, because this piece of content we're creating right now, I consider to be pretty top of funnel, quote unquote. Yeah. We're trying to share ideas for a broad audience. At the same time, we're probably only going to get 8 people to watch it. Right? It's not. I'm just kidding. But it's not. We're not necessarily going for massive reach, but we're going for deep value for that niche part of the market. But it is still top of funnel. It's not beautiful, with the exception of Justin. Right? This is.
He's not wrong.
So I think like we're back to this. Like, top of funnel. I use short form, scrappy content I make on my phone. I do long form, interview style content. I do highly produced. Promotional content for different things. I've got a video series that we do that, again, is more of an ongoing, again, more produced, more expensive set of content. I think it all flies these days. And I think you've got to experiment with different styles and formats. And the most important thing is, to not be held back because you think something has to be done one way or another, right? Like there's a big reset going on, folks. Like we can redefine how this stuff is happening. And I think everybody expects video in so many different forms now, like everything from TikTok, right? There's the Netflix, and then there's the TikToks, and there's, Insta, there's all these different forms. People are just now, this is now a thing. So it's like everything from conversational one-to-one to like, it's all over the place. You got to experiment and try different things for your audience is where I'm at right now.
Yeah. If you look at the buying process, you start on this side and you say you buy over here. There's like a spectrum of like marketing and sales, and like marketing is like it's kind of like theoretical sales. You kind of think people need to know this or hear this, and sales and marketing can happen in all different spots on that spectrum. Yep. But as as marketing, theoretically, what do these types of people want to hear or need to hear? But then, as a salesperson, you have to be ready to jump in at any point and do that one-to-one, and you don't get to tell them, whoa, back up a little bit. You haven't answered this or that, or you have to meet them where they are. And so, I think that's the job of marketing and sales is to kind of work in tandem in that regard and try and help each other out as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think we're back to this like fundamental idea that our jobs as marketers and sellers is to answer the damn questions that your audience is going to have or that they have, right? And it's as simple as that. I mean, it sounds banal, but it's like it is genuinely that simple. And if you can be disciplined enough to go like, let's write it all out, right? From the start of the buying journey to the end of the buying journey, let's keep asking people. We're going to keep adding things to here. Our products are going to change. Our competitors are going to change. Our price, things are going to keep changing. So the questions and the way we answer them are going to keep fluctuating. But if we just focus on that simple idea, and we can create content, we can create content as marketers for one-to-many to address those ideas, right? Like right here, that's what we're doing. We're answering questions about how do I shift my mindset from promotional video to educational video, right? That is a question our audiences have that we're answering here. And I think it goes right through that buying cycle. But to your point, and we've talked about this a few times, is you have to, it's a never-ending process because you've got to go back to your sales team and go, okay, what's happening these days? They're like, it's great. Like, I no longer get this question because they always watch this video, but now this is the thing, or now this new competitor came up, or like now this other thing happened, and like, okay, great, like that's our next quarter content plan, right? And like that's the world we're living in.
Yep, it's a practice.
Yep.
I feel like that's a good period for the episode there.
Yeah.
To punctuate it.
All right. Well, yeah, I think that is a great period to put on the discussion. I would be remiss if I didn't ask Tyler to tell us about the book again.
Well, thank you, Ben. I mean, just I think for all of you out there, if you are struggling to think through where and how does video fit into our sales and marketing programs, what kinds of videos should we be creating? What have other people done that have been successful? Those are the big things that I talk about in the visual sale, with lots of real world examples from real businesses that are shining, and lots of great checklists and things like that. So again, if you think it can help, please feel free to check it out on Amazon and others, the visual sale. And hopefully you'll walk away with at least 3 or 4 new ideas for how you can use video next year.
Well, speaking of the visual sale, let us see it one more time.
Oh, one more time. And it actually has this very nice glossy finish. I mean, if you don't end up reading the whole thing, at the very least, you've got a very nice tabletop piece here for you.
Yeah.
That play button makes me just want to push it.
I know.
It's so funny. That happens all the time. People post pictures of this on social media. Every time, without fail, somebody comments, "I kept trying to push that play button." And it's like, boom, the power of video right there. We just can't help but want to push that play button, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Well, if you're just now joining us,
how would you?
I don't know. But if you're just now joining us, we have had a fantastic conversation with Tyler Lessard, VP of Marketing for Vidyard. Fantastic conversation about educational content and just being open and transparent and sharing, and all the different ways that we can share information to our prospects, our customers, our clients, things like that. Really enjoyed the conversation. I think, honestly, it's kind of like with Tom. I feel like I could do this, 2 hours every day with you, and we could just talk shop. And but I learned things today, and but I think you also validated some of the things that I
It's
think
good to hear somebody else say it.
Yeah, that we believe strongly in. And then by the end, I was questioning myself as to whether we believe those things, because you guys did a blog post on it 5 years ago. And so, of course, we believe the same things. But really enjoyed the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
I did want to point out, I wasn't going to do it on air, but I think that's it's adjective, not adverb.
I Googled it. It's an
Really?
adverb.